Okay, and now it's time for our continued coverage of all this past weekend's action, what I like to call Laundry Day. Laundry in the sense that in the main events of two separate cards this weekend, you had some pretty washed up guys. That's just being honest. On the undercard of Joshua versus Prenga, we saw IBF junior middleweight champion Josh Kelly labor and languish with Coleman Agyarko, fighter who's been mostly domestic level. Up until this point, Josh Kelly, the defending champion, was only marginally better than Coleman Agyarko, just slightly better.
Killer.
Shaking and baking, the way that he normally does, getting on his toes and moving around, not managing the distance too good, which is why he got so marked up, not really picking the right punches either to make a dent in Coleman Agyarko. He actually had an easier time with Bakram Murtazaliev than he did with Coleman.
How was that?
Maybe he was a bit asleep at the wheel this past weekend. Maybe he underestimated Coleman Agyarko and approached this fight more relaxed than he did the previous one. Maybe he underestimated that guy, because that guy touched him up.
Touched his butt.
He barely won the fight, just landing clean punches here and there, punches that didn't have any steam, any sting. I never saw him hurt Coleman Agyarko. Never saw Coleman in trouble. Not a fun fight to watch either. I don't think anybody at 154 or 160 has anything to worry about in Josh Kelly, based on what I saw yesterday. He's likely going to go into the Jaren Ennis fight, as they are both promoted by Matchroom. It's the only sensible choice for Josh Kelly to make big money, which he still really hasn't made, to get that big purse. That big payday. Boots is likely going to beat him. Boots is likely going to knock him out. But if you're Josh Kelly and you're in your early 30s, what else is there to do? As a pugilist, you've got a very limited window of opportunity to make a big score. And for Josh Kelly, that score comes in the form of Boots Ennis, win or lose. You're only going to make but so much holding that title hostage and defending it against cream puffs, cream pies in your own neck of the woods. To make the big cash, you've got to bite the bullet, get your ass kicked, and fight Boots Ennis. I think he'll do it. He bit the bullet with Bakram, didn't he? He did what he had to do, and I expect him to do it again, so that when he does, I think Boots wins and collects a third alphabet title in his third fight at junior middle. I expect it to happen in either November or December.
Hamza Shiraz.
We then move to the super middleweight title fight between Hamza Shiraz and Zachenhuber, unheralded German contender that was able to go the distance with Hamza Shiraz, who looked bang average this past weekend.
Zachenhuber.
Guy he was fighting was a tall drink of water, a tall drink of boxing, this Zachenhuber guy. Very busy in the fight, busy at the start. Busy though not effective, throwing punches in bunches, many of which didn't break Hamza Shiraz's guard, that high guard that he stayed behind, marching forward, attempting to walk down Zachenhuber, though being very complacent while he did it, letting Zachenhuber tee off, put punches together, only getting through with some of his own occasionally. Clean punches and hard punches. Hamza was the harder puncher of the two, and you could see that, but he could stand to be a bit busier. Show more of a jab while he was stalking Zachenhuber and coming forward, backing him into the ropes. That's what won Hamza Shiraz the fight, that he wasn't as busy as his opponent, but he was more effective. He was the one landing cleaner shots.
Zachenhuber.
It's a part of the reason that Zachenhuber was able to put so many punches together is because Hamza wasn't really jabbing while coming forward, while closing the distance, not giving that guy any reason to keep his own guns holstered. He was able to let punches go since Hamza was so reserved with his own. To tell that you can fluster Hamza Shiraz, you can disarm his offense with offense of your own, putting punches together. We saw that at middleweight in the Carlos Adames fight. We kind of saw it again yesterday with Zachenhuber. Activity flusters Hamza Shiraz. If you can get in the pocket and let punches go, throw combinations, he tucks up, gets gun-shy. I think yesterday's voluntary defense against Zachenhuber was a rehearsal.
A rehearsal for what?
A Jacob Bank fight. Jacob Bank, who knocked out former champion William Skull about 2 or 3 fights ago, fought on this undercard this weekend.
I don't think that was an accident.
Jacob Bank is in line to challenge Hamza Shiraz for the brown belt. Jacob, he took on Pavel August, who was lumbering forward, kind of like how Hamza was just lumbering forward. Jacob cutting angles on him, pivoting, bouncing in and out of striking distance, attacking him from different angles, left hooks, uppercuts up the middle.
What are you saying?
That the matchmaking here was quite deliberate. Zachenhuber was intended to be a rehearsal for Jacob Bank, like Pavel August was intended to be a rehearsal for Hamza Shiraz.
What are you saying?
That Jacob Bank and Hamza Shiraz and the people that they fought were a rehearsal for the fight between them, because very soon they could end up fighting each other. If Hamza Shiraz doesn't land a unification match with one of the other champions at the weight, it's conceivable that the next time we see him, it will be against Jacob.
If you haven't been paying attention to Jacob, he's fast becoming one of the somebodies in the super middleweight division, the way he battered and stopped former champion William Skull, who normally makes for a tricky target. Jacob was able to get to him, land hard, and stop him this past weekend with Pavel August. He looked sensational.
Where's this guy from?
Denmark. Normally when we talk about Danish boxers, we're talking about Dina Thorsland. Before that, we'd be talking about Sarah Mahfoud, where Jacob Bank could be the next male world champion that country produces. I was more taken by Jacob Bank's performance against Pavel August than I was with Hamza's performance against Zachenhuber. If he fights like a big stiff fucking robot, like he did this past weekend,
Jacob might get him. Jacob was very fast on his feet, very light on his feet, with speed in those hands and a great variety of punches, straight punches, hooks, uppercuts up the middle. He was explosive and fluid all at the same time.
where Hamza fought like a big stiff idiot. Big fucking robot.
It's a situation you want to keep your eye on. Shiraz versus Bank, and how the title could change hands if they make that fight. Analyzing Hamza and how he looked this weekend, I was not impressed. It was an anticlimactic fight for Hamza. He's looked better. He's looked stronger. He's looked more dynamic, because this past weekend, he looked bang average.
Now in the main event,
We saw Anthony Joshua very narrowly avert disaster in what was the first round, where he was knocked down not once, but 2 times, quite unexpectedly, by little more than a club fighter based out of New Jersey, and Christian Prenga, who landed some hard punches, an uppercut that sent Anthony into the canvas, a right hand that sent him careening into the ropes.
the proposed Tyson Fury showdown came very close to dying on the vine right then and there, if not for Anthony surviving a horrific first round and gathering himself in the second, stopping Christian Prenga.
Off a jab right hand combination, backing him into the corner and letting big punches go. It would seem that Anthony wanted to get off to a slower start than Christian Prenga did.
Why wouldn't he? He hasn't been in there with a live body in a long time.
The Jake Paul fight doesn't count. The whole point of the Christian Prenga fight was to allow Anthony an easy one to work on things, since he's been working with Team Usyk, so that he can bank some rounds and settle into his new base style. Where Christian, he wanted to go home early, and he definitely tried in the first round, scoring not 1 but 2 knockdowns. What are you supposed to say? It's not the kind of thing that you have to overanalyze, is it?
But this is not a good look. That you're not supposed to go through a scare like that with a club-level fighter like a Christian Prenga. This was supposed to be an easy one, and that he was able to knock down Anthony so easy, so early in the fight. Does Anthony have any punch resistance left?
This is why I caught this past weekend's Action Laundry Day, because you've got a lot of guys in the main event that might be washed up. Errol Spence in the Tim Tszyu fight, Anthony in the Prenga fight, and I'm a fan of Anthony. I back him, I have.
I technically still do, but I can't fault anyone for saying that he might be washed up, that his punch resistance is all but gone, and that's not encouraging ahead of what could be a Tyson Fury showdown.
He's done. Signed a legally binding contract. There's a reason that we put contracts together. There's a reason that AJ employs lawyers. There's a reason that me and him sit down and have endless conversations to make sure that every move is correct. The only way the fight doesn't take place in England is if Anthony Joshua and myself agree to it, because we have a legally binding contract that took a long time to negotiate. So as far as we're concerned, there's nothing to really talk about. We follow contracts, the deal's done, the fight's done, it's signed.
It is signed.
Signed, you signed it. So we've got nothing to do. I mean, there's nothing I need to do to make the fight. The fight's signed, the fight's made. So we'll see what the next couple of weeks brings.
So a lot of people have left Eddie Hearn with a lot to respond to. He had to respond to Simon Jordan's accusation after Anthony Joshua's win over Christian Prenga. Writing on his social media minutes after AJ's win, Talk Sports' Simon Jordan weighed in with his thoughts on the clash in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, saying, "Not having that, Anthony Joshua's fight, the co-host of White and Jordan wrote on X, dropped twice and sets the tempo. How's that? Prenga totally different in the second round. Something's not quite right. All designed to rinse maximum amount of money."
A wild accusation. Speaking to the Stomping Ground, Matchroom Boxing CEO Frank Smith addressed Jordan's comments.
"Simon does talk some waffle, doesn't he?" Smith said.
Simon doesn't believe his eyes. In a word, he thinks that there was more going on there than meets the eye. What do I think?
I think AJ wanted to carry this guy for a few rounds. I think he wanted to get off to a slower start than Christian Prenga, whereas Christian, realizing the scale of this opportunity and that he might not get another one, he came out hard and fast and went for the kill right away, forcing AJ to respond, forcing AJ to fight.
That Christian Prenga wasn't there to do things on AJ's terms. Even if what AJ wanted was to let it go a few rounds so that he could work on the things he's been working on in the gym, Christian wasn't there to cooperate with him. He was there to fight, he was there to win, and he forced AJ to have to bring the big guns out in the second round. That's why I think things happened so fast.
You often hear me say that in looking for the knockout, you run the risk of being knocked out, and that's the risk that Christian Prenga was running. He wanted to knock out AJ early. He instead woke him up and got himself knocked out
Early.
Though I think collectively, anybody who's still interested in seeing Anthony fight Tyson Fury later this year, their heart likely sank to their feet off of those first two knockdowns in the first round. Off to a horrific start.
There's been a lot of chatter as to what the next few fights and the next few years for Anthony is going to look like. I think even though he won this weekend, we can put those conversations to rest. Anthony doesn't have but one or two more fights left in him.
He doesn't have enough left for another world title run, as I don't see who he could win another world title from, not based on how he looked this past weekend.
The focus has got to be making it to the Fury fight and taking whatever it is you have left to win that Tyson Fury fight. Then if you do, walk away, because there's nothing left to do and there's nothing left to prove.
The difference is, there's bluster and there's bluster. These people want the fight to be in the US. That's the reality of the situation.
Why?
Because
the biggest number of pay-per-view buys are going to be in the UK.
MSG, America, Showbiz, they've got a hard on for it.
Okay,
that's the reality.
But American boxing's dead.
But they don't. What do you think they really? You know,
American boxing's dead.
Yeah, but you know,
no one cares.
It's
no
just,
one cares in America.
They've been talked into the fact.
Eddie had the WBC heavyweight champion for 10 years and no one cared. He could walk down his own street and was unrecognised. It's disgraceful. So what are you going there for? What are we trying to prove?
Why are you asking me?
I feel like you want to fight Eddie, but you're
agreeing
with each other.
I'm just sick of it. I'm just sick of it. We're appealing to America. Why America don't care about us? When have America cared about boxing? They want what we've got. We've got the best crowds in the world. We've got the most passionate fans in the world. And that's why it should be with us. These are the two stalwarts of British boxing. These have put boxing back on the map. No one cares about America. No one's cared about America since Evander Holyfield retired and Mike Tyson left. No one cares. So why did they need it there? New York, Madison Square Garden, that's great. Go and watch the Knicks.
I sympathize with Tony Bellew's sentiments. I even echo many of them. The days of trying to impress and appeal to the American audience have long since passed. That's why Inoue doesn't fight here.
These fucking people don't buy anything. They don't support anyone. They don't even support their own fighters.
So why should foreigners have to cater to them, especially foreigners that have their own built-in audience in their own neck of the woods? It doesn't make any sense, but it sounds a lot like Tony's angry at Eddie when it doesn't all fall on Eddie. It wasn't his decision, at least not solely, to make. If you're angry at anybody that this fight might not land in England, you should be angry at Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. You don't get angry at the guy who bought the fight. You get angry at the guys who sold it to him. And those guys, that was Fury. That was AJ. AJ's not a puppet, you know. He's got the same autonomy and say-so in his career that Canelo does. And we all know Canelo, he does what he wants. He marches to the beat of his own drum. So does Anthony. You never needed Turkey El Sheikh or Saudi backing to sell this fight. It was already big, all on its own. They chose to involve him to maximize its earning potential, to maximize their own earnings, ingratiate their own bank accounts. That's the truth. If this fight don't land in England as a result of Turkey being the one in charge, it's because they sold it to him. So, they are the ones who are at fault. Now, I don't know why Turkey would decide to bring that fight here instead of doing it over there. That doesn't make any sense.
Nostalgia, maybe.
Turkey may be in love with an idea of the American market that no longer exists. The way things used to be in the heyday of the American heavyweight, the heyday of American boxing, when we were the cornerstone, we were the hub for boxing anywhere in the world. Those days have long since passed. I've been saying it for years. But maybe Turkey is hanging on to that. Maybe he thinks that by bringing a fight like this here, they can reinvigorate this market. The Americans are a lot more xenophobic than he gives them credit for.
And he's wrong, if that's what he thinks. You're wasting a mega fight on a bunch of people who don't give a damn about it, on anything or anyone that isn't American. This fight has no place happening anywhere in the world but the United Kingdom, and that's coming from an American.
If this is about capitalizing on the international market, the international stage, for any Americans who might be interested, you can still do it in the UK, and the Americans can still watch it in the afternoon, because anybody interested, there's nothing stopping them. But if you do it here during primetime hours for a boxing match in America, you alienate the Brits, the people that care about this fight the most.
Stupid. I almost think that Turkey's pulling everybody's leg with all of this, that it's a joke, a practical joke.
It's gotta be. Why would you do this fight here instead of there? Over there, that's the best crowds, the best audience for boxing in boxing right now.
That being said, it's not Eddie Hearns' fault that this is happening, at least not him solely, because Anthony's not his puppet.
Tyson Fury certainly isn't. Tyson Fury doesn't do anything that Tyson Fury doesn't want to do. It's the same with AJ. So if they end up in a situation where they box each other in America instead of in the UK,
they handed over that power.
It wasn't Eddie's power to give away, to sell. It doesn't all boil down to Matchroom, but that's how people often treat these situations. Maybe it's because Eddie's the one who's out there the most, answering questions and dealing with the backlash.
They want somebody to be angry at. He's there, so be angry at him. It's very childish, very infantile.
But he's not the one you gotta blame. It's an inconvenient truth that if you're angry at anybody in this situation, it's the two guys fighting. The two guys that you always say will go out there and make your money.
The fighters.
Well, that's what they're doing.